What is up, everybody? My name is James D. Fiore, and this is Blackballed. It was just over 3 years ago. I can't believe it's been that long. It was just over 3 years ago when I sat down with a former member of the Plymouth Brethren Christian Church named Cheryl Hope. And it was one of the most, it was probably stands alone for me as one of the greatest examples of courage that I had ever witnessed by another human being, especially face to face. Cheryl Hope, grew up in the Plymouth Brethren Christian Church in Maple Creek in Canada. That was her locality. And there was, it was one of the roughest childhoods I've ever heard of in my life. None of it had to happen. And in any event, that episode kicked off over the next 2 years, just dozens and dozens of interviews that I conducted with other ex-members of the Plymouth Brethren Christian Church, and also their sassy cousins, the exclusive brethren, which I'm told is kind of like a distinction without a difference. In any event, it's been a long time since I've been able to sit down and go over some of the harsh memories and new triumphs from individuals who were able to leave, but it's never really a happy story all the way through, but hopefully the people that leave are able to get on with their lives and sort of do good things. But today we are getting back on the Plymouth Brethren Christian Church ex-member train, and my guest today is ex-member of the exclusive brethren. Her name is Jenni McDougall. Jenni, how are you?
Hi, how are you, James?
I'm well, thank you. We originally we're going to schedule this interview for 4 a.m. my time until I did math on my fingers and realized that probably wasn't a good idea. But I don't know what time it is there. I think it's 9 p.m.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay.
Yep.
Well, I'll try not to keep you up too late, Jenni. But we met because last week I was doing, I think I posted in one of the brethren groups, ex-member groups, that I wanted to get back into interviewing ex-members of the cult, and we were able to message each other. So can you first give us an idea of where your locality was, and if you were born, I'm certain you were born into it, and how many generations you are? Can you just give me a little bit of background about your family's history with the exclusive brethren?
I was born into the exclusive brethren, or Plymouth Brethren, or however you want to call them, many, many years ago. My father was born into it. His parents and my father were born in England, and he came out to Australia with his parents when he was 3. My mother was an outsider, as you would call it, from the world, and she married my father. She came into the religion and then married my father several years after she was accepted into the religion. But that's sort of very rare. They don't really accept people anymore from outside.
I often like to ask female ex-members this question about when they were growing up, if there was ever any hint or anything that they witnessed as far as behavior or attitude or whatever, or emotions from their moms, that this was not a good place for women to be, or were they all in? It's usually one or the other.
My mother was probably slightly different in the fact that she came from outside. So she was very pro the cult, extremely pro. She was probably more strict in some ways than my father was. My father was, different, I guess.
Is that normal, like for an outsider to come in and experience the patriarchal kind of system and be like, yeah, this is great, I'm loving this?
I don't know that it's normal. I think my mother was quite outspoken in some ways. My father was quite, when I was born in Sydney, my father was one of the higher up I guess, in some ways. He wasn't the leader, but he was certainly did a lot of preaching around some of the local areas and also country areas and interstate. So
Yeah.
I guess my mother hopped on that sort of bandwagon.
Yeah.
I guess she was, yeah.
And so you would have been born inside the cult, and then
Yeah.
did you have an inkling when you were still a child that this is a weird place, or this is just different from the outside world and not necessarily in a good way?
I think I probably, not so much when I was younger, because it was all very relatively normal. I guess that was the only thing I knew. As I got older, though, certainly from the age of 12, 13, it was very different, very awkward. Probably from the age of 14, 15, I knew that I didn't want to be there, but didn't know how to get out of that situation.
In in your
My
locality,
mother,
sorry,
sorry,
go on, no, please go.
I guess my mother was very, having come from a worldly point of view or outside, she was very strict. And I guess in some ways I had less freedom than some of the kids whose parents were both born into the religion.
Wow, less
She,
freedom than other children in a
yes,
cult. Wow,
yes,
that's
yes.
not very much freedom.
No, it's not a lot of freedom, but I guess I had less in some ways.
Yeah. Um, yeah, that I've tried without success to put myself into the shoes of someone who was brought up in an environment like that, and it's so foreign to me. I guess about as foreign as the real world is to you when you're in that group. Um, was there because I know that the Exclusive Brethren and the Plymouth Brethren, there are some subtle differences, but
It's the
there
same.
are.
It's
Sorry.
exactly the same. They just had a name change. It's just the same religion.
Oh, okay. So there wasn't there a time when you know when going to the movies was okay, and then all of a sudden you couldn't read magazines or go to the movies? Like there was like a pivot point at some point. I don't know if it was after Jim Taylor or what, but there seems to I'm sorry I don't have the timeline memorized, but I was talking to a few ex-members and they can recall a point in their childhood where they were able to go from, you know, walking around town to not being able to walk around town at all, especially when they were teenagers.
I don't remember that
Okay.
so much. Like I remember Jim Taylor, but I
Yeah.
don't remember that. I, I've always had the same amount. Well, sorry, the least amount of freedom that I guess you can have within that cult. I don't ever recall movies being, on track for anyone.
Mhm.
I know when I was about 5, my father had a brother, and he wasn't, or maybe he was in the religion. I can't remember, but we used to have things to do with like have them over or entertain them, and I remember that stopped after I was about 5 because you couldn't have anything to do with your relatives that weren't in the religion.
Yeah, the shutting up and then
Yeah,
the doctrine of separation,
yeah, that's
which
correct.
I think is written by either a married person or a psychopath. Do you know? I'm trying not
Oh,
to be
funny.
fun. I try to make light of it because it just seems so drastic and crazy. Like it's just and I often
Well,
wonder that when someone is excommunicated,
yeah,
is there almost a sense of camaraderie around the people that remain where it's like now we're a team and we got to out this traitor?
I think it's more of the top the top people would say that, but
Hmm.
then they teach all the ones under them that this person is evil and wicked, and this is what's going to happen to you, and do not be like this person because now they're going to have bad things happen to them and their life is going to be very, very difficult, which is basically what was told to me.
And sometimes that ostracization process happens when you're living under the same roof.
It does. It does. It
That's
didn't.
really creepy. Like it's
Well, I can remember people that I knew that were ostracized or withdrawn from or shut up, as it was called. And they still lived under the same roof as their parents or their husbands or their wives or whatever. And, kids of, 16, 17 being in their room and their meals brought to them and, totally isolated. It's emotional. It's emotional
abusive.
abuse.
Yeah.
It's a loss of your emotions. It's a loss of your privileges. It's a loss of your basic rights as a person.
Yeah, and it's interesting because the more I learned about the Plymouth Brethren, and the more I sort of delved into seeing what Scientology was like and seeing what extreme Mormonism was like and all that, these religions sort of swim in this gray area of human rights where the freedom to practice religion is more like it's prioritized higher than any potential and negative ancillary impacts that religion might have on individuals. So and this prioritization is really what allows cults like this to exist in the abusive manner in the first place. Would you agree with that? Or
I do. I think that it's based on fear. And when you're fearful, you will follow. You are not allowed to think for yourself. You are not allowed to have an opinion. And that is learnt from a very young age. And look, I ran away when I was 23. And you don't know how to speak. You don't know how to think.
You don't know that you don't have to wear a bonnet. There's a whole bunch of stuff.
Well, it's critical thinking. It's like even now at my age now, in certain situations, you still hark back to that in your memory to, am I allowed to say that, or should I think this way, or is this okay, or it affects your life. The earlier you can get out, the better. The earlier you escape from living under that tyranny is better for your mental health. The longer you stay in it, the harder it is for you to get out of that mindset.
Was there anything specific that led to you running away? Like, was it a culmination of things, or was there, and I'm not trying to pry too personally here,
No,
but
ask anything. I don't have secrets. I think it was more of a build-up of fear. I was a typical, I guess, I wouldn't say 23-year-old, but you have the mindset, because you're not allowed to think for yourself, because you're not allowed to make decisions for yourself. You're not allowed to choose your clothes. You're not allowed to wear makeup. You're not allowed to mingle with people outside the religion. So you're only getting one feed of thought that is fed into your psyche, and you have no concept of anything else other than that. And so everything is based on fear. And I think for me, leaving was fear of what was going to happen next and where I lived at the time. My father was reasonably high up in an area in Australia that, encompassed several country towns, and he was sort of like a preacher. And he was actually quite an interesting man. But there was others there that were related to Jim Taylor and, the current man of God, so to speak.
Yeah, he's got Jesus on speed dial apparently. So. That's good.
So it's a very quite an ancestral, I guess, heritage in some ways down through generations. And so when you have that influence, it's fear. When you go to every meeting every day, and you go 7 days a week, every meeting every day is based on fear and humiliation and who is going to be paraded, in front of the crowd, basically, who is going to be held up as not the poster boy, but the wicked one.
Yeah, that's I
And
still
as a
have.
kid, that's very humiliating. As a child, that's fearful. As a teenager, that's embarrassing and humiliating amongst your peers.
Yeah, it's a very on steroids version of some mainstream religions. Like I was raised Catholic. A lot of what you said, I mean, they're vastly different institutions, obviously, but
Yeah.
Confession is sort of a humiliation. It's all based on guilt and fear of hell and all that kind of stuff. But it also has the get out of jail free card with confession, which I used many times.
I think that's a Catholic thing.
I'm one of those people. Ever since I was young, I wanted to find loopholes. So I go in, and we'd have to go to confession once a month. So I go, and I'd be like, "Bless me, Father, for I have sinned. It's been 1 month since my last confession. These are my sins." And I bugged my sister. I swore. I took $1 that didn't belong to me out of my mom's purse or something like that.
Yeah.
And then I'd come back a month later, and I'd be like, "Bless me, Father, for I have sinned. It's been 1 month since my last confession. These are my sins. I made fun of your eyebrows this week because they go up and they do that thing. And I lied to you about all the sins that I committed last week."
Yeah.
Because I was like, this is ridiculous. How can you just go into, but with the Plymouth Brethren, it just seems like as long as you're loyal to leadership, you can kind of do anything you want. And like the amount of abuse cases, the amount of cases of abuse that I've heard within this church it rivals
staggering.
The church.
It's staggering.
Yeah. And I'm not sure if your locality was the same deal, but it seems like every locality had that run through it.
I think where I was, because when I was younger, I think I was 12, 13, and I think there was a big move because I was born in Sydney. So it was quite a big congregation. And I think at that stage, we got told by James Taylor and whoever the next one was, that we needed to move out of Sydney and make smaller areas for brethren.
I think Symington was the next one, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, Symington, James Symington.
Yeah, Symington.
So we moved to what my father got given a choice. I think it was San Antonio in Texas or Wagga. So I think Wagga was where he was told to go. Wagga, which is a country town in regional New South Wales, basically in the Riverina. So there was Wagga, Albury, Leeton, and brethren from Melbourne got told to move to Albury, and Leeton was already there, but it was very small. I think there was about 100, maybe, or less than, maybe 50 brethren there or something. And there was no one in Albury and no one in Wagga. So we sort of had to start up those communities, and the Melbourne ones went to Albury, which is closer to Melbourne, and the Sydney ones went to Wagga. And my father was, I guess, in some ways the preacher that went around, along with some of the others that were related to the current leader today. So,
yeah, would your father have been one of the people that went to conduct priestly visits for those who were straying away from the path?
Yes, that's correct.
Yeah,
that's correct.
Have you ever been on the receiving end of a priestly visit?
Oh God, yes. Yes, many times.
What? Go ahead.
I was a bit of a rebel. I did very, very wicked things according to the religion.
Go on.
At 18, I bought a cow from the sale yards, the local sale yards in Wagga, and I took it home to local suburbia with, just a normal house block, not acreage, and put it in the backyard and taught myself how to milk a cow. And you know, and you weren't allowed
That's
to have
not
pets.
wicked. That's hilarious.
Yes, but you weren't allowed to have pets. So my reasoning was that it wasn't a pet, it was a farm animal, and I milked it. So, yeah. And then, of course, I went to the local abattoirs and got, you know, when the animals go to the abattoirs to be killed, so you'd get the potty lambs and the potty calves, and I would bring them home and raise them, hand rear them. That wasn't a pet, you know, because I used to go out and then send them back to the abattoirs to be killed and eat them and then sell them to the brethren.
Oh my God. You just start quoting parts of the Bible that have Noah. Just be like, you know, make yourself look more pious, right?
Well, I wasn't very pious. No, I was not pious. I
Like,
was a leader's
that's kind
daughter.
of that's kind of what makes it sad though, in a way, because I'm imagining someone doing that in like the suburb that I grew up in, just outside of Toronto. And you know, like I can see the community being like, "Aw, she loves animals. Look at that! Like it's we're gonna have to get rid of that cow, Jenny." But you know, but oh my God, your heart, you're such a dear. Like it would be something like that. But there, it's like, why would that be considered wicked? Just because you're just
that was
not
wicked. And then there'd be meetings, and people would bring up in the meetings, not my father because he couldn't, because it was too close to home and he was involved. So it would be somebody else that would bring up, you know, there's someone amongst us that walks amongst us that is not adhering to God's will and has, you know, brought home this animals and is in close contact with animals. And they wouldn't name names, but everybody would know who it was, because in Wagga there was like maybe 100 brethren. So
I see a
everybody would know
giraffe.
who it was.
Oh, that's just Jenny.
And you would see them there, and they'd all turn and stare at you in the meeting, and you couldn't get away from it. It was just like, when you're a teenager, that's embarrassing and it's humiliating, and it makes you feel really yuck inside, you know.
Yeah, that's
and
always
they're
the thing.
normal things.
That juxtaposition that you just described it, and it's a good example of it, where you know the people that should feel ashamed and embarrassed are the people that are wagging their finger at the child who loves animals.
But
Do you know what I mean?
I taught myself to milk this cow, and then I would sell the milk to the brethren.
There you go. And they liked it because it was raw milk, so that the man wasn't getting into their business of pasteurization, right? Like they like that stuff.
Well, I don't know that they liked it, but you know, that was.
Did you have like a lemonade stand? Only it was cow milk.
No, I didn't. I didn't go that far. You weren't allowed to have things like that. That would be worldly.
Oh, you'd have to send a tithing to Bruce Hales if you did that today, right?
Well, you have to do that anyway. So.
Oh, I would love to find out if Bruce Hales takes lemonade stand tithing money. That would be
well,
right up his alley.
Not lemonade stands, but all the kids have to put in money as well, you know.
So now that you're out, I'm just wondering, like, I don't know if it was the same, but when I found out, because I focused mostly on the current leadership, so like Bruce Hales and the Hales family and the trough that they feed from, and when I heard for the first time, because I had to do a triple take, I was like, hold on, you're telling me that Bruce Hales claims to his followers that he can literally talk to Jesus, and sometimes he talks about the UBT, the businesses underneath the UBT umbrella, like, and he gets like financial advice from the big man, and they're like, yeah, and I'm like,
all the businesses are interlinked. You know?
I wonder how many people believe it that are in the cult versus are too afraid to say they don't.
I think a lot of people are not game to say anything, because the risk of saying anything, you lose everything. Husbands lost wives if they've said something, and there's no loyalty, because if a wife thinks that her husband is not, you are encouraged to there's a saying in Australia, you called it dobber. If you dob somebody in, you dob somebody in. I'm not sure what.
Like a con man?
No. A tittle tattle or a telltale or
a rat, a fink.
Yes, that's it. A rat, a snitch. Yeah. So in Australia, it's called you dob your mate in. And so wives were encouraged to dob their husbands in, and husbands were encouraged to dob their children in, and
Oh my God.
there's no loyalty within family. So you lived in not only fear from the brothers and the meetings, but you're also in fear from your own family that if you did the wrong thing, they would tell.
I
You
feel
know?
like there's not many Italians who are in that cult, because when my daughter
Ah,
was born, I went from 50% Italian to like 786% Italian because I was so protective.
yeah,
I couldn't imagine ratting her out. Jesus, like, what is that? Like, you know what I mean? Like, I'm
yeah,
my daughter and I have this thing where she comes home from school and said, because she's tiny, she's 8, but she's the size of a 4-year-old. She's just really tiny, and she'll be like, "Daddy, this boy at school named Jake bumped into me and didn't say he was sorry." And I take my hand and I go like this. I'm like, "How do you spell his name?" And she's like, "Are you putting?" And she gets all excited. She's like, "Are you gonna put him on your kill list, Daddy? Because it wasn't that bad." And I'm like, you know, but to go from that to like, hey, priest or elder, whatever, my daughter was saying some shit the other day. Like, I can't even imagine, like,
yeah.
prioritizing. I guess I'm just not programmed that way. And I guess you have to literally be programmed to believe that prioritizing a doctrine over your daughter or son or mom
Yep,
or wife or husband or whatever
yep.
is normalized. Like, it's so, and I can see how the transition to normal life when you're that 23-year-old Jenny, and let's face it, you kind of alluded to it, there's an arrested development that takes place. So maybe
Well,
mentally you were like 14, 15 or something like that,
well, I
right?
don't
Like,
even think I was that old. Like you don't even reason. Well, I didn't at that age because you had nothing to compare it to.
yeah.
There was no reasoning. I finished school at 14. I was not encouraged to go beyond that.
Was it a brethren school or?
No, thank God.
Yeah.
In some ways, um, I feel that the Brethren schools, the children are more.
Culty?
Yeah, I was going to say more cloistered. That's a
No, but
pretty good word.
I've heard about some of the curriculum stuff, and it's like it makes homeschooling look like a genius academy. You know what I mean? Like, and I'm not trying to front on homeschoolers
No,
because I know that there's some good homeschooling out there, but there's a different vibe with kids that are homeschooled versus public school
yes,
kids. It's mostly the
yes.
socialization, but in this one, it's the indoctrination that just kind of is there now, omnipresent in your education as well as your social and family life, right? So,
Well, I think it's different in some ways for the kids that are in there at the moment because they have a lot more freedom than
mm,
like they're doing things that I would have got withdrawn from for. Like, I know that they can go to movies. I know that they can wear makeup. I know that they cut their hair and they wear all designer clothes and all that sort of stuff. But things that we weren't allowed to do that we would have been, you know.
yeah. Well,
I know that they have TVs.
yeah, they must have a hard time policing it these days, though. Like, we're in a digital age, and I'm sure they want to make it so that you know, you're living in the olden times still with, well, except for you with the cows and stuff. But you know what I mean? Like the the
And the
you know
cassette recorder that I hid under the front seat of my car.
you know you know what? Do you still have that?
Oh God, no.
No. Like, do you have any physical memorabilia from those days that you just kind of keep as like as a reminder, or even maybe the people that you left behind? Maybe I should open with that. Who did you leave behind when you left?
I left behind my mother, my father, my grandmother,
And was
and
that it? Did you see them ever again, or?
I never saw them again.
Wow.
Never saw them again. They died. Oh, actually, no. My father, I saw somebody told me that was in the religion, somebody, and that had just left. Somebody told me that my father had been very sick and was in hospital in Sydney. And I was living in Canberra with my first husband and my first little boy.
Mm.
And my husband and I took my son to meet his grandfather in hospital, and he didn't acknowledge me. He was very sick and he died probably, I don't know the timeline of when he died. I wasn't told. But he looked at my son and held his hand, but didn't acknowledge myself. He just turned his face to the wall. And that really hurt, because my father and I had quite a close relationship. He was a very interesting man. He served on the Kokoda Trail.
I don't know what that is because I'm from Canada.
Well, that's some homework for you.
Yeah.
Where the Japanese had captured.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
In Papua New Guinea.
Yeah.
So yeah, the Kokoda Trail it was called. So it was very harsh environment in the jungles. So he was a conscientious objector. He served as a medic assistant in World War II or whatever. So yeah.
There's that that movie Heartbreak Ridge or something like that, about a medic who's didn't want to carry a rifle. You know that one?
Sort of, similar.
Yeah. But the discipline and commitment that they have to the organization, when your daughter comes and sees you on your deathbed and you still are programmed in such a way where you turn your head. That is the part where I get lost. I can't even fathom. Like it's such ingrained programming.
Well, I was his only child, so it was hard. But I used to ring my mother after my father died. Somebody had told me that he died, but it was probably 6 months after he died, or 12 months after he died, that I found out, because they don't tell you in case you turn up to the grave. Yeah. They do now apparently, but they didn't then. So, but I used to ring my mother and tell her that it was, hi, it's Jenny. I can't talk to you. You need to get right with the Lord. And then, the phone would be put down. So I was her only child. Yeah. She had grandchildren that she didn't see. I needed, a parent. I had children with special needs. My first son had cystic fibrosis.
You were told by an elder or something that if you left, that your children would suffer or something, right? Like,
if I left the religion and married outside the religion, I'd have handicapped children, were the words that were used, and a life of sorrow. Well, it's a bit like in Australia, we have, the Indigenous Aborigines here, and it's a bit like pointing the bone. There was a ceremony where if they were ousted from that particular tribe, they'd have a bone pointed at them,
Like a voodoo thing, like you're getting cursed?
Yeah, sort of. And then they just wander off into the desert and die. And it's a bit like having the bone pointed at you, You're going to have handicapped children, and that's what I did. My first son had cystic fibrosis. My second son had leukemia. And, it was tough. I had no parents, no point of reference, no North Star.
Yeah.
And also no friends, because I left the religion and married pretty much the first person that I felt was a decent man, and went straight into having children. So I left the religion, and a year later I was married, and then kids. And it was a culture shock. It was such a steep learning curve, and I did it with no friends and no family, because you don't have friends, you leave everything behind. Yeah. And if you have friends, I wasn't encouraged to have friendships within the religion, because that was against the religious beliefs. If you make special friends, that there's references in the Bible to having special friends. You weren't allowed to do that. So, and my mother kept me very, very isolated. So I went from a religion that I was, going to meetings every night and, every Saturday and all day Sunday, and to being married with a child in hospital with nobody, like no one to turn to, literally no one to turn to. And I did it by myself, and my husband and I had bought a truck, and he was on the road. So he was trucking up and down the highway between Canberra and Sydney. So it was me and these kids, and I didn't know how to,
Yeah.
You do your best as a parent, But
The
being
choice
raised in that,
the
sorry,
choice of relationships, like I'm just kind of curious. Like, I met your husband earlier when he was helping out with the camera situation, but that's your second husband, I'm guessing, and then
yeah,
your first husband. I'm just curious. There's no wrong answer, but
yeah,
the way that you grew up, did that impact the type of gentleman that you chose to be with as your first husband?
yes. Well, women were encouraged to marry very early. My father was also a marriage celebrant. I was a bit different in the sense that I didn't get married early. I wasn't married by the time I was 16 or 18.
That's criminal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My father married 16-year-olds, 17-year-olds, 18-year-olds.
Mm.
So I wasn't in that situation. And you sort of, it tends to steer you towards, for me anyway, I wanted somebody that was, I guess, not the opposite of the religion, but also similar in a sense that they were normal, or what I perceived as normal. Having no idea of what normality was, I was
Yeah.
trying to go for somebody that was normal.
Like slightly traditionalist,
Yes,
provider,
yes,
that kind of
yes,
thing. Yeah.
yes, that's correct.
And he was a trucker, so you were left with the kids a lot.
Yeah. So yeah,
Yeah.
and no family and no friends, because you just didn't have that. I didn't have that opportunity to develop those
It fe-
friendships.
it feels like, and this is just a guess, I could be totally wrong here, but it almost feels like a person in your situation. I've talked to countless, not countless, but I've talked to many ex-members who have similar stories in that they left when they were like 18 or left when they were 30 or when they were 23, like yourself. And when they have kids, there's something in my gut that tells me that they don't really start learning about the outside world until they start learning it vicariously through their children as they watch them grow up. In the sense that, there's this is now like the slate is clean, like they're growing up in the outside world. And sometimes it feels like parents, they don't get their cues from the kids, but the kids serve as almost like a reminder of what normalcy is, because they get to live it in the opposite way that you did, which is from birth.
Yeah, I can remember trying to give my children all the opportunities that I didn't have. But on the flip side to that, I was also quite an authoritarian parent, because that's how I'd been raised. And so I
Interesting.
didn't know, like, it's different now. At my age now, you see that there's different parenting styles and different ways to go about things. But back then, I only knew one way, and that was how I was raised. And there was no opportunities for me at that stage to find out anything different. So I
Hmm.
raised my children in an authoritarian way, in one way, but on the other hand, trying to give them as much as possible, like very good schools, lots of sport in the afternoons after school, because I'd never had that opportunity. So by the time my kids were, 6 or 7, they had experienced lots of different sports. They were allowed to, do 2 or 3 sports every
Mhm.
week, you know,
And what
just
would you have done if one of them brought home a cow?
probably laughed.
Good.
Yeah.
It's evolution.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Evolution. But there's no evolution in the religion. This is the thing.
Yeah.
They don't evolve. They stay the same in a dictatorial sense of the word, not like the Amish, or I guess in the sense that they cling to old-fashioned ways, but they cling to that fear and that dictatorship. Does that make sense?
Yeah, there's like Stockholm syndrome almost. Like there's a comfort in
Yes.
your tormentors,
Yes.
right? Like,
Yes.
and I actually experienced. I won't go into detail about it, but if you're in an abusive relationship
Yep.
with a partner, um, It's funny how like your brain can trick you into thinking that you love them even more the worse they are towards you.
Yes.
It's a very odd place to be, and there's a lot of self-doubt and self-loathing that takes place in that type of scenario as well, and you really got to kind of deprogram yourself, like, and it's not
But you
easy.
can't deprogram unless you know that you can be deprogrammed.
True.
How can you know to deprogram if you didn't know that there's deprogramming groups or deprogramming systems, or do you know what I mean? It's the knowledge that you're taught is very, very basic there. And the knowledge is that, that the men lead and the women follow, and the women are really only there to breed.
Let's not forget cooking, Jenny.
And cooking, yes. And I still, 40 years down the track, I still have that mindset. Everyone that comes to this house certainly doesn't go home hungry, and I still cook for 50 instead of 2.
Yeah, that's I do the same thing when my ex and I separated and got divorced or whatever. That when I'd be by myself, 'cause I have the kids half the time, she has them half the time.
Yep.
But I found that for the first year when I was alone, I was cooking for 4 still. I didn't know how to cook for one. Like now obviously I do, but like, and I obviously did then too, but just habitually, like I'm Italian, so I'd make a Sunday sauce. And when it was the 4 of us living there, even though my kids weren't big sauce eaters or whatever, I would make like a big vat of it. And then they leave, and I have them only like half the time, and I make a sauce. It's just a still big vat of sauce, and it's like, what are you doing, swimming? Like, what's like, so it's hard to get rid of that programming. So I think I get it from a microcosmics perspective. Yeah,
it is hard to get rid of it. Like my mother, I guess, the entertaining on a Sunday, especially, you'd go, especially where we lived in Wagga, and you'd have 6 a.m. My mother would be up at 4 a.m. baking bread, because the leader's wife had to do that. You'd bake the bread and take the wine to the 6 a.m. meetings, and then after that,
the wine goes to the 6 a.m. meetings.
Yes.
Wow.
Yep.
I didn't know they were Russian too.
No, the wine and the breaking the sets, the breaking of the bread and the drinking of the wine, which is the flesh and the blood of.
Yeah, that's a Catholicism thing too.
Yes.
But there's like the fellas really do find excuses to drink though, don't they? Like,
it's not only the fellows, it's the women as well. Like my father was, as I said, was a lovely man, but also sort of like a leader. He was quite a quiet man, but a great preacher. One of those, shouty preachers.
Yeah.
Billy Graham type preachers.
I'm partial to the black church preachers.
Yes, the happy clappers.
My name is the Lord. Like, I just love that stuff.
Yeah.
And then the clapping and the singing.
I guess, was a bit like that, but more of a fire and brimstone type preacher.
Yeah.
But ordinarily, he was quite a quiet man. But the men drink. I was drinking straight Scotch at 13.
What? Johnny Walker's their brand, isn't it?
Yep. Yeah. Johnny Walker.
Yeah.
They'd ask you what would you like to drink. I'll just have a Scotch, thanks. Do you want anything with it? No, just on ice. That's how you learnt to drink.
They probably just want you to go to bed early. You know what I mean?
I don't know.
It's just such a weird thing. Like out of all of the aspects about this church that I find the most bizarre, it is the permissive drinking at a young age. Because usually it's the opposite. You don't want the poisons to mess with God's chemistry and all that stuff, right? Like it's usually
drinking at a young age. Like when you have a baby in the religion, your baby goes, as soon as you basically given birth, you take the child to church. From the time it's baptized, which is normally a week or so after birth, and as long as the baby is sitting on your lap and puts its hands towards the cup as it passes around, the goblet, chalice, whatever you want to call it, silver thing.
The Holy Grail, yeah.
Yeah, that if the child reaches towards it, it then has a mouthful of wine.
What?
Yep. So that can be as early as,
Wow.
2 months, 3 months.
See,
So
that's
it's,
abusive, I think, too. Like
of
you're
course,
almost you're conditioning. I mean, it's like
it's once a week, but hey,
I remember being a kid at a wedding when I was like 6 or something, and like some stupid drunk uncle gave me some wine or something like that. But you're at the age where like it's kind of disgusting, so you put it back. But and the babies might find it gross too. But if you're conditioning, like I remember in the there was like I remember hearing stories in the 60s and 70s about moms and dads that would put like whiskey on the tips of bottle nipples
yeah,
when kids
pacify.
were teething
Yeah,
and stuff, or if they wanted them to go to sleep or something like that. But like,
yeah,
yeah, it's just such a
yeah.
strange cultural
Oh, look,
facet.
a, a, a fistful of bread and a mouthful of wine at 2 or 3 months of age is once a week. Yeah, it's probably not that bad, but hey,
Like I said, that
it's
sounds
still,
very Italian to me. Like
it does, doesn't it?
it does. I literally did that just the other night. you know?
But the thing is, a lot of the women are alcoholics.
Yeah. Well, I'm not surprised. I mean, all
Well, that's
men seem like
all that they have.
alcoholics. I heard you got ridiculed if you're a man and you don't drink.
Yes, that is correct. Yes.
It's like the movie Footloose or something. It's just like just people getting bullied for not drinking. It doesn't make any
Yep.
sense.
Oh, look, the whole religion is based on bullying.
Yeah.
That's
Well,
It's bullying to where people commit suicide. It's bullying to where people lose their lives over, little things. Little things.
mm.
You know,
um,
I can remember young people going to the pub or getting caught going to the pub, and their whole life would be ruined because they went to the pub for one drink, or they went to the movies, or they watched TV in the shop window. You know, it's bullying, and then it would be paraded at the local meeting, and everybody would know who it was, and then their parents would get visited, and then the kids would be shut up, and it's deprivation.
yeah. Did you know anybody else from your locality that left that you were able to
Um,
connect with, or?
yeah, afterwards,
Mm,
I was busy in the first probably 20 years of, or 10 or 15 years of leaving, I guess, with kids and hospitals and life
mm,
in general and learning how to cope with life. I don't keep in contact really with too many people. I have
mhm.
the occasional one that I message, but no, I don't keep in contact with really anyone now. But there was a few of the young men that had left after me. Apparently, I was a bad example, so a few of them left after me.
Yeah. Good.
But I didn't know about it until it was after it had happened. So
So
yeah,
the idea was that you
yeah, I was the
influenced them to
instigator. Yeah,
muster up the courage to leave, kind of thing.
yeah, apparently.
Good. That's a triumph.
Oh, yeah, I don't know that I want to be associated with that sort of triumph, but hey, whatever,
Well,
whatever
listen,
get you out
this
of that situation. It's a very sad situation to be in. Like, it
yeah.
really is. It affects your whole life. It affects your family. It affects your thinking. It affects your capabilities in life.
Well, it's like living in a constant state of white noise trauma. It's not shocking trauma where something happens to you and it totally messes you up. It's like stepping on a trauma train and just normalizing that type of situation. Like, there's a lot of people that, like, if you imagine yourself as a person who isn't, who lives in the regular world and then wakes up one day, has their clothes put out for them, is told to go start cleaning and cooking for the boys. Oh, you're 16. Okay, well, it's time to get married to that guy, and now you're gonna have babies, and like, for that's traumatic. All of those things would feel traumatic, like, because you would have no semblance of control when you're born into it, and that's and trauma becomes a lifestyle, you don't look at it as trauma. But I think it
No,
has all
because,
the same ingredients, though. You know?
well, I went and there was a group probably about 10 years ago in Sydney that I used to go every couple of months, and it was like a cult survivors type thing. And somebody there, a psychologist there or psychiatrist or whatever, said something that was quite interesting. He said that the cult survivors have very, very similar PTSD symptoms as veterans that have served our
Yeah,
nation.
I believe that.
It's very sad, and the things that get to me are the kids, the innocent kids. You know, I've seen kids in that religion that have been beaten and that have bruises on them, and you can't say anything because if you do, then you know they don't believe you, or that's discipline. Or I've seen kids that have, you know, that have been very traumatized by the things that have happened to them.
Yeah, you know that your claim of being pious or religious or godly is the words of a charlatan if you can't bring yourself to hold accountable people that abuse children.
That's correct. That
You
is
know?
correct. And it's sad. It's not just the children; it's the women and the men that have lost everything. They've lost their wives. They've lost their whole families
Yeah, there.
because they've managed to. The elders have managed to turn the wives against them and ask them to report back to them what their husbands do or say in the home. You know,
You know, are
they're
they
business.
aware? Are they aware that in the outside world, wives can just turn against their husbands without the help of a village?
Yeah, correct.
Yeah, it's like you don't need all this help, guys.
No, you don't need help. But
No,
it's
but
just,
one
you
of the
know,
things that I remember talking to somebody in the actually there was like two or three people that kind of made this point where the level of, and these were people that were abused, sexually abused and physically abused when they were kids
yep, yep,
by often their father or their older brother or a relative of some sort. And three of them said very similar things about forgiveness because of where they were raised.
yeah.
They learned this behavior as if it was, you know, innocuous or as if it wasn't evil, as if it was basically normalized. And so it gave these victims, these women, this, I don't know, this power to forgive that I've never really witnessed before. And because and their logic is sound, although very hard to relate to, because they
Well, it's very
blame the
flawed,
system
isn't
in
it?
which they were raised, right?
Yeah, it's very flawed logic. I mean, you can forgive your husband for going having an affair, or you can forgive your wife for burning your dinner and stuff like that. But where does the forgiveness in reality, stop? Where does accountability come in?
Yeah, I never believed in that Oprah mantra about forgiving someone is really uh, something that you do for yourself. I'm like, no, it isn't. Like, I don't agree with that at all. Like that whole resentment is like swallowing poison and waiting for the other person to die. That's a little bit different. But the whole forgiveness thing, people should only be forgiven if they deserve forgiveness. Like I can't just blindly forgive someone for being horrible because I'm supposed to make myself feel better. It could just be a matter of terminology. I can stop feeling bad about it, but that doesn't mean that I have to forgive anyone, you know, like
I
because there's
agree.
certain things in life that are unforgivable, I think.
Well, I agree. I just think that it's not just the overt things; it's the covert, the bullying, the
Yeah.
fear, and the lack of compassion.
Mm.
And you are taught to be hard by that. You are taught not to have feelings, not to show your feelings.
Yeah.
You know, it it can make you or can break you. I'm very lucky that I'm strong, because
Yeah, I can tell. I can tell that your husband just says yes, dear, a lot. Right? Like you run the roost. I think, Jenny.
who knows?
No, you know.
Who knows? Who knows? It's funny though, like you talk about how kids are raised and how open we are with our children today. Like
Yeah.
the things that I didn't know, even when I left the religion, even when I got married. You're not taught anything. You are
But you still
not
took
taught.
some of those tools, right? Like you said, you were strict. Like that's probably a tool you took from
Yeah,
when you grew up.
was that a tool? Was that a good tool? I was strict in
I don't
some
know.
things, but in others not. I don't know that that's a good tool. I think
I
that
think
was more.
everything in moderation is probably good. Like look, I am not strict at all. And like my parenting technique is tell jokes and laugh all the time. That's
That's a
honestly
good
like
way to
how I
be.
raised me.
Your kids will remember having fun with you, then, won't they?
Yeah, but I don't know if I'm really preparing them for this hard world out there by just like we go to the grocery store and we have like we call it our residency. It's our because we're a comedy troupe, right? Like so
Yeah.
they're 10 and 8 and we go to the grocery store and just randomly I'll turn around and I'll be like, if you kids don't be quiet, we're going to Winnipeg. And they're like, no, but it kills every time we tell it. No, we don't even know why. We just shrug and go. And we have call out words if one of us gets lost, which is Pam for some reason. Like, but then when we come home, like I don't have any discipline chops. I don't have like it's all conversational. Why did you do that? That was a silly thing to do. You're twice your size. Don't be stupid. Like that's basically my discipline. So I don't have a consequence game at all. But I'm rebelling
You'll
against
probably
what
need one when your kids are older.
what's that?
You'll probably need a consequence game when your kids are older.
Probably. I don't want to be pushover dad, but at the same time, like they're pretty well behaved. That's the thing. Like
But
they're
that's
not.
good.
Yeah.
I think my kids were pretty well behaved till my last one. She wasn't that well behaved, but hey,
Yeah.
that's
Well,
kids for
the
you.
youngest. Give us a break. I'm the youngest.
Yeah,
I
the
wasn't
youngest
well
gets
behaved
away with
either.
everything. Yeah, the youngest
Yeah.
gets away with it all because the others have just had to carry it all. But it's funny. You're not taught anything, how to parent. You're not taught how to love.
Yeah.
And loving doesn't always come naturally when you are withheld that sort of emotion. When it's withheld from your life, it doesn't always come naturally to you.
Yeah. It's well, listen, it's a hard road.
It
Uh
is.
especially like you said, like that arrested development where you like it's like being born again without the religion, like 23 years old and heading out into the world without any of the tools that those of us who were brought up in the real world like have. And I think that there should be a part of you that should be proud of yourself. I think there's a lot of people that would have retreated to the bottle forever. There's a lot of people that would have lived reclusive. I have spoken to a few people that have had many long-term issues because of how they grew up, and it's been like 40 years. So I think that if you want to if listen, my unsolicited advice is I hope in your quiet moments you see your story as a success story given where it started.
I do actually. Do I have regrets about things? I wish I had have left earlier. I wish I had have handled things differently and been more. I'm very outspoken, but you couldn't be outspoken in that religion. So I would do, the cow, bringing a cow home, bringing,
That's the greatest thing.
sheep and calves and a baby pig home. It's going to be nice bacon. I did
What's the
things like
pig's name, Jenny? Bruce Hales.
yeah.
Yeah.
It didn't live long enough, unfortunately.
That's right. Oh, is he dead?
The pig's dead. No, Bruce isn't, as far as I know.
Okay. Oh, yeah. I was gonna say, I was like, I almost did something ungodly and almost cheered because I thought Bruce was gone. But
Oh, God.
I mean, I would just be cheering because now he gets to talk to his phone pal in person, right?
Yeah,
So,
but they all have successes, so I think the successes are just as bad as the.
Well,
You
isn't
know,
there going to, I heard through the grapevine that there's going to be a fight. Like whoever takes over the spot of Tony Soprano of Australia is going to be like,
it'll probably be his son, won't it?
well, he's got two, doesn't he?
Yeah, I'm not sure. I'm
Can I put
Bruce's.
my name in the ring? I've talked to a lot of ex-members.
You have. You've probably learned all the rules.
You
I
know
grew
what?
up with Bruce Hale, so yeah, he's my era.
Wouldn't that be hilarious? Imagine I found out that I really could. There was a magic phone and I could talk to Jesus. That'd be crazy.
And what would you say?
I said, get down here, dude. Like, fuck, what the fuck are you doing up there?
It's not enough.
Show yourself. Enough of this mysterious ways shit and get down here and fix some stuff. Like,
and there wasn't enough fish to go around, and you didn't give a vegetarian option or a vegan option.
What's this with this pancake shit on Tuesdays? No one wants that. No, you know what's funny is that I feel like I just blew it. I get criticized by a lot of ex-members for swearing and joking about God and stuff like that, but I don't mean it in any offense.
Look, there's nothing wrong with that. You've got to take life a little bit not seriously at times. You've got to look at the lighter side of life. Because life can be pretty tough, and you've got to laugh. You've got to have a laugh, James.
Jenny, thank you very much for joining us today on Blackballed. I really appreciate it. And tell your husband to get his acting gear. I don't know.
Yeah, that'd be good.
You have a good night.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Jenni McDougall. That was a good show to get back on the Plymouth Brethren track. I put the call out. I got a few responses. I'm going to put the call out again. If you're listening or watching this, and you can contact me directly, or you can contact Cheryl Hope if you want. If you have her contact and you don't have mine, I'm on Facebook. I'm on Twitter. I think my email is located wherever you're watching this. But in any event, it was the right time. I had a lot of personal stuff happen in the last, I don't know how long it's been since I've really interviewed, like maybe 18 months. And life has taken a very strange turn, but I feel like I'm back in the swing of things now. And so, yeah, if you're out there and you're an ex-member, even if I've talked to you before, just to update, just to see how you guys are doing, I would gladly have you on the show. I have a show tonight, a Blackballed episode with David Wallace, as we continue to explore the political coup that is taking place in Alberta. Yeah. Getting a lot of flack for that too, but that's how you know I'm back. Someone's mad at James. Until then, we'll see you next time on Blackballed.
Blackballed. Blackballed. Blackballed. Blackballed. Black.